in this talk, I am proposing that we should document entire scientific literature similar to a constitution. This talk was posted on May 20th, but this is an updated version. These are the topics I'm going to cover. When we look at the structure of a constitution, it looks like in the higher level it's article, and then parts, and then sections, and then under the sections actual law, whatever that law or bill, what act, whatever you call it, so those will be documented. So when there is a change or an amendment to a constitution, legislative body makes those amendments. So they could, in this case, in this example, they added a third statement under Article 1, Part 1, under Section 1. So that's going to be new law or bill. So how do we refer to those articles? We refer to those statements. We refer to them by all its sections. Like suppose if we want to refer that third statement highlighted in red, we have to say like this Article 1, Part 1, Section 1, and then that is the third statement. So in short, we can even refer that statement as 1.1.1.3. So like that, similar to a constitution, we need to document the core principle of science should be documented similar to a constitution as a core library. This entity should be supported by a government body. So we can put case forward to say that like, okay, my statement has to be there. So you have a chance to put forward a case. If it is maintained by a private entity, you can't argue with them, and you can't make any, you can't add any statements all by yourself. So that's why that needs to be supported by a government entity. So when you look at the new structure of the scientific literature that I am proposing, we could divide it by subjects. Subject 1, physics. Subject 2 is chemistry. And then branch 1, under subject 1, branch 1 will be classical physics, and then branch 2 will be quantum mechanics. So under branch 1, section 1 is the force, and then section 2 is the gravity. Under section 1, so there is a first statement of rule that force that belongs to the force, and then there is a second statement. So this is how we need to structure entire science into sections and subsections, and then at the end statements of that concept. So how do we build it? So this whatever we are building, and similar to a constitution, this format of scientific publications should also be made available publicly. So whatever we will building as part of this library, that should be openly available for everyone. And how do we build it? Gather the core statements from openly available content, and so gather the statements from abstracts of the articles that are behind a paywall. So if there is a content openly available, we summarize the main points and then put it in the library. And if it is articles that are behind a paywall, we can take the points from abstracts and then put it in the core library. And so if it is maintained by government, so they will force the publishers to add the main points into the library. So that way we will get benefited even if the article is behind the paywall. So if because the government entity forces the publisher to add the points, they will add whatever the main points from that article into the library. So And also, publishers and authors should provide statements from the articles, books, if they are behind a paywall. So even the authors or publishers, they could add their own statements into the cloud library from their work. So if and then where does the actual research references be listed? So because this is openly available on the internet, so each statement, let's suppose the second statement in this here, so that's under that statement, whatever that rule describes the force would have all the supporting references underneath that statement. Whoever discovered it and whoever experimented on that one and whoever later referenced that statement, everything will be listed under that statement. So scientific research result could be published in any of the formats such as a book, an article, um, a video, or an audio. So how do we add a new statement into the core library? So data is being published everywhere, every day in a new book, a new article, new video, or new audio. So we need to summarize those concepts and add it to the library. So each research publication ultimately establishes a set of statements. That's how it is, right? Even if you write a lengthy, like 10-page article, it's basically proposing a concept or a rule of nature and in one single line. That's what it is. So that statement needs to be part of the core library. So author or publisher of a new research should add the statements from that work into the core principles of the subject to which they belong to. So, and also a reader of an old content should also be able to add the statements from that publication. So reader finds a old copyright expired book, like even if it could be ancient book like before common era. Though if user finds it and then summarize the points from that book and add to the core library, so that so the adding the ability to add into the core library should be open to all. Wherever that content is there, they add it and then put the reference under that statement. And so how does that look like? Adding a new statement into the core library from a new research or from an old publication that came to light. So if somebody found a new statement for a force, so they could add under subject 1 physics, branch 1 classical physics, section 1 force, and then add the third statement as whatever they found about the force. So how does the citation of this new format works? Let's suppose we want to cite third statements under force. So this could be we could say that like physics, classical physics, force, third statement, or in short form like we could say 1.1.1.3. That's how the statement could could get cited. So if you write an article and then if you want to cite a statement, so this is how. So in your article there's a line called every action will have an equal and opposite reaction. Under that you cite your citation is where you copied that statement or where your support for the statement comes from. You can list that as 1.1.1.3 as your citation instead of who is the author, what is the publication, when that was published. All that gets simplified with this core library in one simple short form. If there is no core statement for a discovery that is behind a paywall or within a book, then original reference should be cited in the article until that statement gets added into the core library. So this referencing to the core points of a work is not new. So this is being used from ancient times. Even all the ancient books, including the Bhagavad Gita or even Bible, has this kind of slokas or verses chapter under chapters and subsections like that. So two of the famous slokas in the Bhagavad Gita are यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. So this sloka, everybody says that is from Bhagavad Gita, but it's basically part of the Mahabharata. Under that, it's under the Bhishma Parva. That is the chapter, that's the Parva 11, and then chapter 4, and then slokas 7 to 8. That is the actual reference for those two slokas. We could even, in short, we could say that instead of Bhagavad Gita, we could say that Mahabharata 11.4.7-8. That's how we could cite that work. So this is the meaning of the two slokas, if anybody interested. This is I copied from Yogananda, Paramahamsa Yogananda's work on commentary of Bhagavad Gita, part 1. So that was published in 1999. I think that was the second edition. So what are why we are building this kind of new core library for science? As I pointed out in the previous video of this series, the following methods and practices are hindering the progress of science. Why we see the stagnation in science? That's because, as I discussed in the previous video, main culprits are peer review, absence of theoretical journals, expensive journals, citation issues, one-sided plagiarism check, selective publication in popular media. These are the causes for stagnation of science in our present time. So how we could solve those issues using whatever that core library I am proposing for the to build the statements of science. How the new structure of science overcomes the obstacles to the progress of science. When you take peer review, some of the, even if you publish a work and then there is a peer review of that work, and then still that article could be wrong. There's no validity for that future that could be overthrown as if some other new theory comes. So science is ever changing thing. So peer review, blocking a new work based on peer review is not the right thing. So what is the right approach is publish everything first and then review later. Put it in the whatever the statements from that work into the core library. Let everybody refer it or let support it. Whoever wants agrees with that one. Let others criticize it. Whoever disagrees with that. So that should be dynamic thing, not just a one-off. Like okay, peer has been reviewed. This is great, gold standard, and then that's how it should not be. And then peer review enables the theft of research. Like somebody discovers something, and then that nobody accepts that paper, and then down the line 10 years later, because that article has been there, we sent to 10 different journals, and then they have the copy, and then that can easily get it distributed somewhere, and then somebody else picks up the same thing after 10 years or something, and then publishes, and then if he's famous, popular, or he has institutions to support, and then they get publicized, and then he gets the credit. So that kind of theft will be eliminated if as soon as you publish something anywhere and then consolidate the statements and put it in the core library, and then that statement will be there forever as long as science lives. And then even if somebody comes up the same thing later, because already there is a statement, his work will be followed by in your work in the chronological order. So absence of theoretical journals Like if you want to make a theory and then publishing it is very difficult because most of the journals looks for experimental data. So because theories all like big leap in science doesn't happen based on experiments. It's in bold theory, bold statements, bold thinking. That's how science makes a big leap forward. So that's why lack of theoretical journals is kind of obstructing the progress of science. So with that open publication, publish anywhere. You make a research, publish in a YouTube video or in a preprint server or in your own website with an internet page. Anywhere or research kit, you could publish that on that, and then make the statement from that work and put it in the core library, and then that gets referenced. So there won't be any limit to publish theoretical articles. Journals are too expensive to read the articles in them. So if we have the core library and the statements, we can do our research based on the statements from the core library. If somebody really wants a detail, then they could go into the journal and read it. If you don't want to read how did they experimented thing, you are only interested in the summary of their work, and then just take it and then you can read as many you can have entire set of scientific statements at one place, and you don't have to go read these journal articles. Citation issues are citation to the statement, not to the research. With this new format, we are what is that work that was done, and that's the one we are reading. It is referring to, not to the who published it, where it's published, when it's published, is that book or a journal, which volume. So we don't care all those details. So it's the statement that's what more important. So then this gives uniform citation format, makes it easy to document the research. Each journal has their own different kind of research formats. Some want name first, some want paper first, some want year first. Or like this is how they make you not they make not easy to publish the document, because if one journal rejects the paper and then you want to submit to another journal, that format will be different. You have to reformat your article and send it. So that is endless pursuit, to publish your work. So with this format, it's a uniform citation section, the top level subject sections, subject and branch and sections, and then statements. So that's how a simple 4-letter word, or we can make it even more sections, like whatever the number of sections are. It's a limited form. Right there within the article you can cite what that statement is. So that makes it easy for if anybody writes an article, it's very easy to write. And then selective citation issue gets eliminated. So some people cite their own friends, even though if somebody else has a very good work, they won't cite that work. They won't, like, academia won't even cite the works outside their journal, fancy journals, and then their own books. So that thing, selective citation issue, gets eliminated with this core library. You find referring to the points, and that point might have came from somebody outside the science, or somebody just doing fun work in science and got some new idea and then wrote the article, and then that becomes part of the core library. So even that statement also needs to cite it if you are using that statement. So one-sided plagiarism check. Even after an original research comes to light after a statement has been established by later research, the original research will have the chronological precedence to their statements. If somebody plagiarized some earlier work. He read some book somewhere, and then he wrote the article on that one, and then he inserted a point into the core library. Then after some time that book came to light, and somebody found that that statement was already there. So that book gets the precedence of reference for that statement. So selective publication in the media. So media open statement in the core library, core principles established by a new research will be visible to everyone. So appreciation of discovery is instantaneous. Like you can't avoid, like media can't avoid highlighting one research, and not highlighting, not taking the other one, because that value of the statement is self-evident. It is there in the core library, and then if you're not appreciating that work, you basically not worth reading your work. So what are the benefits of the core library? So the point of this series, why we have a stagnation in science. So that's where this comes to. There is no stagnation in fundamental research. Present theories are not providing satisfactory explanation to many observations in the nature. There are plenty of alternative theories in books, articles, and videos outside the popular media. These theories are presently not being looked into. They should be made part of the academic curriculum. How we could do that? Having a core library makes it easy for the researchers to add statements from their work into the core library. Core library will be the source for education and future research. That's how um, we could bring all the other alternative theories into the mainstream using the this core library concept. In addition to bringing the unrecognized research to light, the core library will have the following benefits. Core library provides uniform citation format. Writing an article will be free of cumbersome citation formats of individual journals, and writing an article using the core library will be same as arguing a case using the constitution. So this is that's why, like, constitution won't get repeated, one statement won't get repeated again, so statement is unique. So similarly, the science, if you describe some rule about the force, that will be there, and then it won't get repeated. So there is a similarity between constitution and then the logic of the science, whatever the statements of science. That's why I chose the word like it has to be written similar to sections and subsections, and like that. So that is why it's writing a research paper, like what is right research. You kind of take some statements and try to find a commonality or the difference between the statements. The same way people argue the case based on like facts, whatever that events occurred, based on that lawyer or attorney argues a case. Both are arguing a case, and writing a research paper is, in my view, both the same. So scientist is same as lawyer or attorney, wherever you are staying called, or for that matter, anybody could become a scientist. Not only lawyer or attorney or scientist. If you have an inclination to do investigate, you could also become a scientist. So this core library, the main obstacle for people who wants to research is the peer review and then citation. Like, not everybody, if you are somebody in a village, don't have access to expensive journals, they can't read whatever the latest research is. If there is a core library, just go, anybody could in the world could read the library and come up with their own solutions and theories based on the data. And so in that case, like, how one becomes a scientist, or what does make you a scientist. So that's going to be the next series I'm going to start. And so, in summary, what we can say is thousands of books and articles exist today, including the ones from ancient times. Moreover, new research is published in many different forms, including articles, books, and content from the form of audio and video. It is not possible for any single individual to grasp the content of these publications to gain an holistic understanding of science. So AI is not a solution here. So everybody thinks like when you think that kind of problem, or AI can read all the articles and summarize the thing and give you a summarized concept for whatever you're looking for. But I don't want summary. AI could summarize the things, but it doesn't enable, it doesn't create an environment for a future research. So research happens based on referencing the old work. So whatever these current AIs, OpenAI or Grok, they can't give you what is the source is. So they can't give the points like where how they derived that solution or whatever the summary they build up. So that's why we need to have a core library and then points, and based on that everybody could report and then come with their own summary or theory. So the solution to document the core principles of science into sections and subsections is similar to the format of a constitution. So that is the solution. Education and research should be concentrated on reading and referring to these core principles. This is the only way for this stagnated science to advance into the future. So, little bit about the series. I started last year, and then I basically in the beginning with I first talk was kind of introduction, and then the later I added few of my discoveries in detail, and then drawbacks in publishing the research results. And the previous talk I talked about, and then this talk is what is the ideal environment to publish the research papers. So the building a core library is the ideal environment for to publish the research results. So that's how I kind of built this entire series, and these are the talks I gave earlier, and this is the last talk, and this concludes the basically this series. Thank you.